Hey everybody, I'm back to reviewing old gaming magazines from yesteryear. I'm not going to tell you the date of this quite yet. I'll do it on the next page. However, we're starting off with a advertisement for a computer game. Ooh, go, 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 go. So what we've got here is a Star Wars Episode 1, obviously Pod Racer, 600 miles per hour, experience it. And what we've got here is quite unusual. I found it quite funny actually. So you got the event, date, venue, and sponsor. The event is pod racing. The date is the 4th to 6th, 1999. Yes, folks, this advert was in 25 years ago. Oh my goodness, where has the time gone? The planet Tatooine and sponsored Jabba the Hutt. And then technical data: speed 600 miles per hour, opponents 21 plus, worlds 8, levels 21, thrills limitless. And Nintendo 64, feel everything. Nostalgia. So we'll go over to the front page. Well, probably the third. Is it third? Oh, the 8th page, yes. As you can tell, it's an old magazine. You must bear with it. What we've got here is from August of 1999. And there's the date. Gamesmaster. So, top of the page. So, you've got the news section, hot news. Story so scorching you'll burn your fingers, it says there. I'm not going to sort of bend this again, because if it does, it'll probably end up breaking it, so you must take my word for it. You want news? We've got it here at Gamesmaster Towers. We'll make sure that we bring you the very latest in streaming hot gaming news each and every issue. So sit back, put your feet up and enjoy. Folks, this was the Twitter, IGN and everything else on YouTube of the day. I'm not going to review the entire magazine in one go. I'm going to limit my videos to just under 10 minutes. So, let's start off. The console wars. The Dreamcast price drop. Price war begins. Sega's react to price slump. In an attempt to restart sales in Japan, Sega has slashed the price from 29,800 yen to 19,900 yen, just £102. Which, to be fair, back in 1999 for a new console, a new generation console, I should say, that was actually a fairly decent price to give. Sadly, it was the Dreamcast and not nothing else. Although I think the N64 was hovering around about that same price as well. And as I'm recording this, you probably struggle to get a Dreamcast under 100 quid. Ironically, I went into CNX the other day, and the Nintendo 3DS console that I've got, the red one, has actually gone up in value, but that's me backtracking and blabbering. So what we got here, so far, Sega estimate that they have sold some 3 million machines in Japan since the Dreamcast launched last November. Not a bad start, but it seems that the sales are beginning to stall. Perhaps not surprising when you realise that the DC has been twice the price of the PlayStation and N64 all this time. So yes, again, it was not uncommon for you to pick up a games console for about £120. I should know this because I picked up the PlayStation with Tomb Raider 2 for about 110, something like that. So yeah. It seems that once again Sega has relied on the hardware specs DC's 128-bit central processor rather than the bevy of games to sell its new console, and has ended up getting their fingers burnt. At least with a host of Dreamcast titles now arriving, Sega shouldn't have the same problem when it arrives in the US and UK. In the light, Sony and Sega's recent announcement that the new consoles is difficult to see quite how Dreamcast will now be perceived. Will it be a cut price alternative to the PlayStation 2 and Dolphin, or is it a slightly more expensive rival to the N64 and PlayStation? Only time and a confirmed UK launch date will tell. So basically what was happening is that a lot of... actually, that's actually not too bad. I thought that might be a bit pride. So basically what happened is that the Dreamcast was launched to a big fanfare, and then after that it was like a case of it's not selling, boys. The reason being because there wasn't actually proper decent titles to it. A lot of ports that was from the PlayStation and the N64 was just sort of shimmied onto the Dreamcast. One of the Resident Evils, no, sorry, one of the Tomb Raider games was put on there. Yes, it was Resident Evil. I'm not sure if it was 2 or 3. I think it was number 2. I should remember because it was in development for the N64 for like yonks, and then the Dreamcast came along and it had a copy, albeit more upscaled version of it within, let's say, I think it's like 3 months or something. So Sega boss Shigeru Imagi, I've definitely pronounced that wrong, in blue, flogs Dreamcast out of the back of his van. After queues around the block to start with DC sales are slowed up, prompting the price drop. Yeah. Come on, buy a Dreamcast, we won't drop the price 6 months later, honest. And then it goes 200,000 play at once. Europe gets a 50 servers. The Dreamcast is set to be the first console to offer fast, effective online gaming. Sega's hope to have their internet service up and running in the US and Europe as early as September. Using light-speed fiber optic network, they can also carry voice messages and video images. They're expected to spend nearly $83 million on setting up 200 servers in the US and 50 servers in Europe to handle what they claim could be up to 200 games online simultaneously. Gulp. The socket plugs out of the Dreamcast hidden expansion port. Other gubbins will fit in here too. This is it, the phone socket for you to see, and the modern modem has come out to just slot in a placement. So basically they had like a modular design for the Dreamcast. It was well ahead of its time. Sadly, if I always said if this was released like instead of the Sega Saturn and you had this games console on the market from day one, there would have been a good chance that Sega would have still been some sort of hardware developer rather than just software. And I think the Microsoft Xbox is going the same way. So, the Dreamcast rumours that Sega will produce an upgraded Dreamcast machine by summer 2000 featuring an improved SH4 or SH5 chip. That a DVD peripheral will be released for DC next summer using 4 hooks to connect to the machine's expansion ports. That DC consoles will be able, plus 3 games will be able to rent from a retail partner of Sega of America from this July. That WWF Attitude will be ported to Dreamcast. Sadly, that was the last console that Sega has ever made, unfortunately. So what we got here also is the PlayStation 2 at the Tokyo. So I'll try and read it. Actually, let's see if I can go a bit forward with this. Okay. Right, let's just see if it'll go forward. Right, this is going to knock my back up. Right, so what we got here is a prototype unit appears, revolutionary laser system. Yes, this is actually a prototype of the PlayStation 2, and the PlayStation 2 has been out for donkey's years. Sony has announced that the PlayStation 2 will make its full debut at the Tokyo's Game Show on the 17th of September. Rather than the hastily erected silver pyramid of E3, this time Sony will unveil a prototype unit along with details of all the chips that will power their superstation, and production begins in October. PlayStation 2 will be able to use both traditional CDs and DVDs. Thanks to a very special kind of laser obscurator that creates the laser beam that is used to read data off disk. The laser can oscillate in beam at 2 frequencies, 780 nanometers for CD and 650 nanometers for DVD. This is the first time that this kind of dual-purpose device has been used in a commercial product, and it's expected that will include in the next generation of DVD players. Basically, that was the biggest selling point for the PlayStation. The fact that it could, and it did, was used predominantly for a DVD player. The Nintendo Wii had the same problem. It was basically used just to play it on Wii Sports, and everybody seemed to have had one, and then everybody forgot that they used it. PlayStation 2 rumours that the Spy Hunter is being developed for the PlayStation 2 by Paragon, the developers responsible for Pilot Wings and F1 Grand Prix on the N64. That Titus are teaming up with Japanese company Yux to develop Roadsters and the sequel to Evil Stone for the new console. That Virtual Ocean and Nooks and Crannies, two hot top secret games being developed for the PC, will be converted to the PlayStation 2. We'll get on to the Nintendo one. Square interested in Dolphin. It seems likely that Square and Nintendo have put their differences aside and collaborate on projects for the new Dolphin console. Although Square has not announced any games for the new format, they are interested in the potential and are currently planning their development schedule for the year ahead. A major factor in Square's change of heart is thought to be the DVD system used by Dolphin that does away with the expensive and limitations of cart-based software. Because DVD discs have 4.7 gigabytes capacity, even Square can't run out of space. So yeah, I mean, it's not like that now with the Nintendo Switch. It just goes to show Nintendo was on the winning path of them since day one. And this is a miracle by the Dolphin's power, the Gecko CPU, and to show how small it is, they balanced it on an N64 pad. Bloody hell, that's small. When you consider that only, 5 years before we had the N64/Super Nintendo. So yeah, the technology in computer gaming was going out of this world by the late 90s. So Super Nintendo was here, that was fine. The Mega Drive, never had one, although I might get the classic one when I get round to buying it and flogging my Amarak handheld games console. And the N64 and the PlayStation, I had them, but after that I sort of teetered off. So this was pretty much one of the last magazines that I actually purchased. Can't see what it says because obviously it's all battered. The Battle of the Stats part of it is. So it's got memory card, software capacity, Dolphin, PlayStation 2, Dreamcast. So the Dolphin, which was the GameCube, had a DVD of 4.6 gigabytes. PlayStation 2 had 4.7 gigabytes. The Dreamcast CD had 1 gigabyte. So the Dreamcast CD, it wasn't like a DVD of such. It was some sort of proprietary type disc format that Sega wanted to produce. N64 cartridge, 64 megabyte, and obviously you've got the PlayStation with 650 megabyte, hence the reason why there was more FMV on PlayStation than cartridge games. Better late than never. In response to the huge number of phone calls we received on the subject, we can now let you know that WWF Attitudes will not be released until August due to the ambiguous project of squeezing so much into the game, but it should be worth the wait and is by far the best grappling game yet seen. Revis slips again. In other delay news, Sony Revis release date has been slipped into the end of August. Eidos has initially planned a March release. At the time of writing, the game is in the final stages of tweaking. So obviously, if anything's not going to be released before summer, it's definitely going to be released after summer when the Dark Knight CM people are generally in front of the TVs after work and pleasure. Game Boy sales still soaring. UK sales of the Game Boy are forecast to hit a staggering 1.5 million in the year 2000. Nintendo handhelds found a new lease of life since the Game Boy Color was launched. The imminent release of titles such as Pokemon, Star Wars, Racer, R-Type for the machine should ensure that there's still plenty of left in the old beauty yet. Yeah, this is an old magazine, folks. MGS for the Play SX. The man behind Metal Gear Solid, Hideo Kamiyachi, has confirmed that a sequel to the immensely popular PlayStation title will appear on the PlayStation X. This has not stopped rumours from circulating that a fully fledged sequel may also appear on the current version of the PlayStation. More news soon. Anyone seen a Pocket Station around here? The much delayed European launch of the Sony Pocket Station is now looking as though it might not even take place at all. Sony has remained strangely quiet regarding the VMS-like device, and it's not on show at E3. This is despite that the Pocket Station's huge success in Japan, where it has recently been selling around 30,000 a week. We'll have more soon. So the Pocket Station was basically a visual memory unit like it was in the Dreamcast. The only thing is, it's kind of had like a little hinge on it that was acting like a memory card. You couldn't put it in the controller. So basically, when the Dreamcast was first theorized / reviewed, the visual memory unit sat inside of the controller, and it was going to be like if you was going to play like an Alien game where it would have been like a scanner. So you would have looked down at your scanner, and it would have been the radar pulse going boom, boom, boom like that in the game, in the films. Right, let's see what we've got here. Oops, hang on. I wonder if I can actually still redeem that off for £5. Let me see. Oh, sorry, it's valid until the 30th of 1999. I might just go in just for a laugh to see if I can actually get away with it. So stop press. Sony sues third-party add-ons makers more soon. So basically what that was, it was the controllers. So I think the idea was the patented XY, the X, square, circle and triangle buttons. Sony wasn't allowing people to use them anymore. Don't quote me on that, it's been a while ago. Excuse me. Tomb Raider 4 for Christmas. Law returns to PlayStation and PS. First details leaked. Tomb Raider 4 on PlayStation and PCs becomes certainly this month. There's been some speculation about Lara switching to the PlayStation 2, but an Eidos financial report silenced doubters that they are stating that a further interpretation of the Tomb Raider franchise is scheduled for 1999, at least a year ahead of any PlayStation 2 launch. The pre-Christmas 1999 release date matches comments made by Eidos chairman Ian Livingstone in an interview in 1999 that the Tomb Raider 4 will be released next year on a next-generation console and the PC. As yet, Eidos has made an official announcement, but sources close to the developer's core said that the games will feature a black female character and will have a time-traveling theme. Levels are set to be more open plan, but in the PC version there will be a new game engine. Overall, TR4 will return to the feel of the first game, and you'll have more interactive storyline. The rumour mill is working overtime to plug the gaping chasm left by no official news, with some suggesting that the game may feature teenage Lara, while others claim TR4 will only be finished in the Millennium Dome. Well, it made us laugh. The fact that there is another Raider on the PSX comes as no surprise considering the success of the series. The interesting bit is just how different TR3 will be from TR3. Considering some of the criticism, will core eliminate those dodgy textures? Will game have a comfortable learning curve for TR virgins? More news soon. So that was Tomb Raider, The Last Revelation, one of the hardest games that I played on the PlayStation, the original one. Although with the remastered, why have they not remastered the fourth one? I'm not bothered about Chronicles, but why did they not remaster the fourth one? It was a better one. It had better graphics. It had a better story. It was more open plan. It was just a better game in general. But no, they only remastered the third. One thing clearly won't change, or should we say two things? This was the late 90s, folks. Dodging textures, stupidly difficult learning curve. These are more should be fixed in the next game. And so yeah. So final PSV No Fantasy, Final Fantasy 9. I've never played a Final Fantasy game. I can honestly say I've never played it. I don't know why. It's just it went over me a few years. I don't know. I've always been into the Legends of Zelda for my RPG fix. The Final Fantasy franchise, I've just never got into it. Although I was in CNX a couple of months ago and I did see a game for the Nintendo 3DS, which was one of the Final Fantasies, one of the first ones / remake, whatever it was. And I was thinking, should I try that just to see if I like it or not? The ninth in the best-selling Final Fantasy series will come to the PlayStation, not PlayStation 2. The information was posted on a website of DigiCube, a retail subsidiary of Square in Japan. The site went on to suggest that Final Fantasy IX could arrive in Japan as early as next spring, making an autumn 2000 release in the UK likely. Although Square maintained that no release date has been fixed, and DigiCube has since deleted all FF9 info from the site, it now seems certain that the game will run on a current Sony hardware. Speculation is mounting, however, that taking into the account its release date, that there could also be a PlayStation 2 version of the game, considering the backwards capability of the new Sony console. There is even the possibility that Square could produce a single game that runs on both machines in an enhanced and unenhanced form. With the massive success of FF7, it's also on the cards that the Square will produce a PC version. Square are keeping scum, but GM is set to bring you the more very soon. So basically, unlike the current generation of games consoles, where you've got the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5, and essentially the PlayStation 5 is just an upgrade of the PlayStation 4, with this generation of games consoles, so obviously you've got the Nintendo 64 and the Sony PlayStation, and then it went up to the GameCube and the PlayStation 2, there was a huge difference in graphics compared to what was previously available. I mean, the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 1, it was just completely light years from difference. Now that, the games on the PlayStation 5, apart from the graphics, they aren't too dissimilar for what you was getting 18 years ago now, I should say, on the PlayStation 3. Mainly because obviously there's a certain level in gaming that it can only get to a certain point before it gets maxed out. And then we've got Cloud Speaks. Word has reached us that Square's drawn up a list of the actors who they'd like to voice their characters in the upcoming Final Fantasy movie. The cast wish list includes Donald Sutherland and James Wood stands out, while more surprising is the inclusion of Steve Buscemi, who has recently landed a major role in the blockbuster Con Air 2. That's the world's smallest violin playing just for the occupants of Midgard. Mind you, sources close to Square suggest that the film will feature an all-new storyline and cast. And then goes Steve Buscemi, Cloud Strife. So basically, this was obviously in terms of the Final Fantasy film, which bizarrely I watched one. I think it was on New Year's Eve of all things. I actually generally did enjoy it. Don't ask me why. I'm sort of into this little I find weird niches of films that I watch, and I just sort of get into them, and nobody else watches them. I mean, I just don't understand it. It's just a personal taste. So what we got here, Stop Breast, Soul Calibur Dreamcast features online capabilities. Yes, folks, that was the beginning of online gaming. More Star Wars. Go on, force yourself. Force Commander. Force Commander on the PC. LucasArts gets strategy. Even though the world is concentrated on the Phantom Menace, LucasArts are still making the most of the original trilogy. PC owners are about to reap the benefits of a new strategy experience, a Star Wars meets Command & Conquer gaming feast. You'll control Imperial or Rebel forces in a full-scale, real-time, ground-based combat. The developers hope to explore the new 3D acceleration technology to draw the players into the heart of the battle. A floating camera will provide several different perspectives of the action, while an attached camera will hurl the player onto the battlefield to experience the horror or defeat, or the parade of victory. The game spans the original trilogy from just before the start of episode IV to the Rebel victory at the end of the Return of the Jedi. Some of the scenarios will look particularly familiar, as you'll be able to remaster the Imperial, Sultan, Rebel base on Hoth, as seen in Empire Strikes Back, but other challenges will take place in the dense forest of Yavin 4 and other unseen planets such as Rule. You'll have to switch between attack and defense to be an effective commander. Each scenario has its own objectives, depending on which side you are on. You'll either have to devise a key target or or take a defensive stance and repel the attacks. By establishing a base on operations, you can capture the strategic buildings and before destroying the enemy, as well as controlling Y-Wings, ATTs, and TIE bombers. You will also get to send a whole array of new tanks, missile launchers, and droid ground forces into battle with a head-to-head mode available over the internet or network. This should rule. Oh yeah, oh Christ, I've just cut my legs off. You obviously not watched episode didn't he come back, Darth Maul? Commander Conquer meets Star Wars. If the dream ever come true, there was Gears it here. Sadly, the Force Commander, I never played it. The PlayStation X, I think you can just about see that there. Is the PlayStation 2 reported to be half the size of the original machine? A new laser light oscillator has allowed Sony to reduce the number of main components from 11 to 4. In theories, this would be a console a little bigger than a personal CD player. Micro Among Us. Pac-Man returns. Namcom's legendary Pac-Man character has been resurrected for the new 3D action game called Ghost Island. The 21-year-old Blob's newest outing will be for the PlayStation with a UK release, although it's still not confirmed, looking likely towards the end of the year. Tomb Raider for the Game Boy? Eidos Interactive has struck a deal with Japanese publisher Enix to publish a Game Boy Color version of their games. Rumors suggest that Eidos' initially Game Boy outing is a success. There might be produced variants of Tomb Raider and Thief for the Nintendo handheld. Zelda's not going cheap. Nintendo is denying rumours that the Zelda Ocarina of Time will be released on its $29.99 Player's Choice label in time for Christmas. They'll only say that there is a chance that it could be released sometime next year. This is despite the fact that titles include Zelda, Banjo-Kazooie, Rogue Squadron, and Yoshi's Story will be released on Player's Choice in the US in August. Magnum PI, PlayStation privacy in Australia has reached such high levels that the Sony has hired one of the largest private investigative firms to tackle the problem. It's estimated that over 10% of games sold down under are pirated copies. Struth. Ah, yes. Most importantly, do you think I can redeem this £5 off? The voucher entitles to a saving of £5 off any N64 PlayStation game priced $34.99 or more at participating HMV stores. Valid until the 30th of the 9th, 1999. Only one voucher per transaction. Cannot be used in conjunction with any other voucher or promotion. Offer is not open to employees of Future Publishing, HMV, their agencies, or anyone directly connected with the offer. Photocopied, damaged, or defective vouchers will not be accepted. Cash value 0.1 pence. And that, folks, I think I'll leave it. I've been babbling on for nearly 30 minutes, and I've still got a hell of a lot to go. Thank you very much for watching. This is part 1.